This is a solo-only small box game, based on the tactical combat systems of its larger sibling, Gloomhaven. You'll play as one of the familiar classes of Gloomhaven, and as the story goes, you've been shrunken down to about the size of a mouse, and now you have to fight through other tiny enemies in hopes of returning back to your normal size. If you're new to Gloomhaven, this might actually be a great entry into the series, and we'll talk about everything you need to know to get started. Gloomhaven is notorious for its lengthy setup, but due to its size, this one is actually kind of quick and easy. Start by grabbing the character cards and choosing your character. The back of the card will have a little flavor text about each one, as well as the complexity level of that specific character. There are 3 low complexity characters, but the guide recommends Bruiser if you're new to Gloomhaven, so we'll go with him. Make sure to grab the miniature for Bruiser. Look how tiny these are. And the rest can be returned to the box along with the other character cards. Also, gather the following items: the brown hit point dial, and set it to your character's maximum hit point value for level 1, shown on your character card, your brown character attack modifier tray, and place the white cube in the top slot. The 4 level 1 ability cards listed on the back of your character card. These are double-sided and start on their A side. The scenario deck will already be in the correct order. You may grab the deck out of the box and flip the top card to read the story of That Shrinking Feeling for context. With your character ready, you can now read the next card for Scenario 1, A Rude Welcome. Read it up to and including the goal. Grab the Bandit monster card noted in the scenario's monster list. Now, you can flip the scenario card over to its map side. Some hexes have terrain with special rules, defined by their colored border. Green bordered hexes are obstacles and cannot be entered or moved through by either you or enemies. However, they do not get in the way of ranged attacks. You can also jump over obstacles, but more on that later. Red bordered hexes are hazards. In contrast to obstacles, they can be entered. However, doing so will result in taking 1 damage. Look at the quantity and cube colors of the monsters shown on the map. Place the cubes on the hexes with the Bandit Guard artwork, a green cube in the green hex and a blue cube in the blue hex. Place your miniature on the starting hex. Grab a monster tray and place the Bandit Guard card in the slot. Set the bandit's maximum hit points equal to its maximum as shown on the monster card. Do this on each hit point dial that matches their cube color. Place a white cube in the middle 0 slot of the monster tray. Retrieve the red monster modifier tray and place a white cube in the top slot. Keep the condition tokens, icon, reference card, and die nearby for later use during the scenario. So now you're all set up and ready to play. Each scenario has its own specific goal, but the majority of them are going to be to defeat all the monsters to progress to the next one. Scenarios will get progressively more difficult, but you're also going to get a lot stronger. As you progress, your character will level up, increasing your maximum hit point value and allowing you to bring more items into the scenario. We'll cover progression a little bit later on. Now, before you play your first round, there's a few concepts about your abilities that you need to know. The entire top or bottom half of each of your cards is a single action. On your turn, you will perform the top action of one card and the bottom action of the other. Each action consists of 1 or more abilities represented by different icons and numbers. The 2 most common are move and attack. Since this game is about combat, it makes sense that these 2 abilities are most important. So you can choose to forego any card's top action to instead perform a basic attack ability, or forego any bottom action to perform a basic move ability. In other words, you will always have the option to move or attack or both, regardless of the cards that are left in your hand. Just as it sounds, when you perform a move ability, you can move a number of hexes up to the value of that ability. You don't have to use the full movement. For example, with a basic move 2, you can choose to move 1 or 2 hexes, moving to an adjacent hex with each movement point. A movement with jump, like we mentioned earlier, allows you to safely move through hazards and obstacles. You cannot end your movement on an obstacle, and you will still take damage if you end your movement on a hazard hex. An attack ability allows you to target an adjacent enemy and deal damage equal to that ability's value, modified by an attack modifier roll. Any time you perform an attack, roll the die and apply the corresponding modifier from the chart on your modifier tray. The applied modifier comes from the column of the die result and the row marked by the white cube. For example, if you perform a basic attack 2 and roll a plus result, while the cube marks the third row, the attack will deal 3 damage, 2 from the attack value and plus 1 from the rolled modifier. Most modifiers simply add or subtract a value, but there are 2 unique ones. The null modifier reduces the final attack value to 0, while the 2x doubles the total value. Note that any conditions from your abilities are still applied regardless of the modifier, including the null modifier. Sometimes you will have advantage or disadvantage on your attacks. When you do, roll the die twice and use the better value for advantage, or the worse value for disadvantage. If you would have both, just roll once as normal. After each attack, move the cube down 1 slot in the modifier tray, or back up to the top slot if it's at the bottom. Range attacks work the same way, but of course an attack with range allows you to target an enemy at a distance up to the range value. However, a ranged attack against an adjacent target will have disadvantage. An ability with a condition applies that listed condition to the indicated target, or the target of an attack if listed as an attack effect. Each condition's effect is described on the icon reference card. Place applied condition tokens on your character card, or, for a targeted monster, next to its health dial. Remember that conditions are applied regardless if damage is dealt. An area of effect attack can target multiple targets, and you'll roll a separate modifier for each one. The gray hex indicates your position relative to the red target hexes. If an area does not include a gray hex, at least one target hex must be within range. But the area can be rotated or mirrored. Push allows you to move the target a number of spaces up to the push value. Each space moved must increase the range to the target by 1. Inversely, if you see a pull icon on a ranged attack, you may move that target a number of spaces up to the pull value in a direction that decreases the range to the target. An ability with a target specifies the target or targets affected. If only a number is given, you can target up to that many enemies within the ability's range. A heal ability allows the target to regain hit points equal to the heal value. For example, the Bruiser's Eye for an Eye card can heal you for 2 hit points. Some actions will stay active for longer, to the end of the round, or persist until a condition is met or until the scenario is over. These actions are marked with an icon in the lower right-hand corner. A round bonus lasts until the end of the round, while a persistent bonus lasts until you choose to end it. Place cards with active bonuses above your character card in the active area. Shield is an active bonus that negates damage from each attack that targets you. The damage negated is equal to the shield value. For example, if you are attacked at a value of 3 after modifiers are applied, and you have a shield value of 1, the damage received is reduced to 2. An attack with Pierce ignores the amount of a target's shield bonus up to the value of that Pierce. Retaliate is an active bonus that allows you to deal damage to an enemy that attacks you. The damage dealt is equal to the Retaliate value. Like Shield, Retaliate can be gained as a round bonus or persistent bonus. At the start of each round, you're going to pick 2 cards from your hand, and these will be the cards that you're going to play throughout that round. For example, as the Bruiser, you could pick Shield Bash and Warding Strength, with the intent to move adjacent to the Green Bandit with the bottom action of Shield Bash, and then attack with the top action of Warding Strength, pushing the bandit into the hazard and strengthening yourself. After picking your 2 cards, choose the initiative value of one of them. This determines when you will take your turn during the round. The lower your initiative, the sooner you'll act. Next, you'll determine the initiative of the bandit guards. Roll the die and move the white cube on the monster tray to the slot matching the die result. The column below the cube indicates the bandit's initiative and what abilities they'll perform this round. Both bandits will perform the same abilities. If their initiative value is lower than yours, they will go before you this round. The rest of the round consists of your turn and the monster's turn. Whoever has the lower initiative will act first. On your turn, you'll perform the top action of one of your chosen cards and the bottom action of the other. You don't have to use the abilities you had planned on if the situation changes. You may switch the top and bottom abilities if you wish. You can perform either action first. After finishing an action, flip the card to its B side and return it to your hand. If the action has an active bonus icon, instead place that into your active area above the character card for now. Track any damage you suffer by reducing your current hit points on your hit point dial. On a monster's turn, it performs the abilities listed below the white cube. Each monster of the same type performs the same actions, but they take their turns in numeric order. Monsters perform only the abilities listed. If a move ability isn't listed, they will not move. Monsters perform abilities in the same way you do, following some additional guidelines. Monsters will move along the shortest path to their target without moving into hazards. They will choose a path around hazards even if it means they cannot get in range to attack on their turn. When a monster suffers damage, track the damage on the hit point dial of the corresponding color. As soon as a monster has 0 hit points, it dies. When a monster dies, remove its cube from the map and remove any conditions it had suffered. Persistent bonuses listed along the bottom of the monster card, such as the Bandit Guard's Shield 1, are active at all times. Round bonuses from rolled abilities are only active once the monster has taken its turn, but they remain active until the end of the round. Multiple active bonuses stack. For example, if the cube on the monster tray marks the leftmost column, the Bandit Guards have a Shield 1 round bonus once the bandits have taken their turn. This shield value is added to their persistent bonus, temporarily giving each bandit Shield 2. After you and the bandits have taken your turns, the round ends. Cards in your active area with round bonuses are now flipped to their B side and returned to your hand. Persistent bonuses can stay in your active area. You should now have 2 A side cards and 2 B side cards in your hand, unless you have a persistent bonus active, in which case you'll only have 1. B-side cards in your hand can be picked at the start of the round just like A-side cards. However, instead of flipping them after use, B-side cards are discarded and cannot be used again until recovered. We'll touch on that later. Let's play out the full turn to tie it all in. Let's go back to the example of using Warding Strength in Shield Bash. After playing your cards, you choose the initiative value of 15, since you want to be able to act first. Now you roll the die for the bandits, and you get a plus value. Move the white cube to the plus value on the monster modifier tray, and the bandits will take their turn at initiative 70, and they will perform a move 2 and attack 2. You want to attack and push the green bandit into the hazard, so you use your move ability on Shield Bash to get adjacent. When you attack, you roll the die and get another plus result, so your attack has a +1 damage modifier. Your attack ability on Warding Strength already does 3 damage, so now you hit the green bandit for 4 damage. Decrease the corresponding HP dial down 4 points, and move the white cube on the modifier tray down 1 slot. Now you can apply the push ability of the attack. It was a push value of 2, but you choose to only push 1 so that it can land in the hazard and take another point of damage. The rest of the Warding Strength ability has a condition that strengthens your character. Place a strengthen token on your character card, and it will remain until the end of your next turn. Now it's the bandit's turn. They take turns in numeric order, so the green bandit goes first. It will move to get adjacent to you and attack. You roll the die and get a 0 value, so the bandit will hit you for its normal attack 2. You decrease your HP dial by 2. The blue bandit will move 2, taking the shortest path to its target. Since it is still not in range to attack, that is the end of the blue bandit's turn. Now move the white cube on the monster modifier tray down 1 slot. You will now flip the 2 cards you played to their B side and return them to your hand. Now you can prepare and think about your strategy for the next round and play it exactly the same way. Elemental infusions, such as the one on Bruiser's Leaping Cleave card, can empower some effects. As long as an infusion is visible on a card in your hand, active area, or one of your chosen cards, it can be consumed once each round. The option to consume an element is represented by this element icon and is followed by the added effect after the colon. For example, during the attack ability of Bruiser's Skewer card, you can consume Wind to add +1 attack and Pierce 2 to the entire attack ability. After performing an action with the Lost icon, place the card in your Lost pile to the right of your character card, where it remains until the end of the scenario. If the Lost action has an active bonus, the card is still considered lost and must be moved to the Lost pile when its active bonus ends. When you suffer damage, You can choose to negate damage by discarding or losing cards in one of three ways. Discard one A-side card from your hand, discard two B-side cards from your hand, or lose one card from your discard pile. However, you may want to do that sparingly, as losing cards will shorten the total amount of rounds you'll be able to play before becoming exhausted. A little bit more on that later. There are two ways to rest, a short rest and a long rest. Both will allow you to recover your discarded cards back to your hand at the cost of losing one card. You can only rest if you have at least two cards either in your hand or your discard pile. You can perform a short rest at the end of the round. When you do, return all cards from your discard pile to your hand and flip them to their A side. Then you lose one card at random. If you want to, you can suffer one damage to lose a different random card instead. Instead of choosing your two cards for the round, you can declare a long rest. You'll take your turn at initiative 99 and follow these steps. Return all cards from your discard to your hand, then lose one card of your choice from your hand, instead of random. Perform a heal 2 on yourself, and you'll also recover items, but you don't have any items right now. You can learn about items after you're done playing the first scenario. You can become exhausted in one of two ways. Either you have 0 hit points left, or you don't have two cards in your hand or discard pile in order to rest. When a scenario ends, it is either lost or completed, depending on if that specific scenario goal was met. The scenario is lost if you become exhausted, or if a specific loss condition is met. The scenario is completed if the specific goal listed in the scenario rules is achieved. Once the end of the scenario is triggered, play continues until the end of the current round. If the scenario would be both lost and completed in the same round, then in that case the scenario would be considered lost. If the scenario is lost, then you must attempt that scenario again. If the scenario seems too difficult, you may lower the difficulty by using the easy or very easy card on the monster modifier tray. If the scenario was completed, read the conclusion of the scenario, which is found in the scenario entry on the scenario card. The conclusion will indicate which scenario to play next in the campaign. There are two items printed at the top and bottom of each card in the scenario deck. Once Scenario 1 is complete, at the start of each additional scenario, the items on any card that has been resolved or skipped are available to equip. Only one item on each card can be equipped at a time, but different items can be equipped at the beginning of each scenario. An item entry has the name of the item, when the item can be used, and what bonus or ability you gain. What happens to the item after it's been used? Some items are only spent, while others are lost. Some items can even be used multiple times. Each item counts as one of three types: this one-handed symbol, a two-handed symbol, or a small item. These types determine which items you can bring into a scenario. All items you bring into a scenario are placed below your character card and can be used as specified in the item entry. You can use any item as long as it's available, but you can only bring a limited number of items into the scenario. You can bring up to 2 one-handed items or 1 two-handed item, and a number of small items up to half the scenario level rounded up. The spent icon means the item is spent after use. This is indicated by rotating the card sideways. Spent items can be recovered the next time you perform a long rest. The lost icon means the item is lost after use. This is indicated by returning the card to the pile of unused items. Lost items cannot be used again for the rest of the scenario. Some items do not have either of these icons. This means the item applies a passive effect. There are no limits on how many times an item with a passive effect can be used. There is a level indicator to the right of the scenario's title, which determines the level of your character in that scenario. Your level determines 4 things: how many level 1 ability cards you can upgrade, which modifier table you should use, you're going to want to use the side of the card that matches the scenario level, your maximum hit point value, and this is printed on your character mat as a red number below your indicated level, and how many small items you can equip, which is half of your level rounded up. For each additional scenario level after level 1, you may upgrade an ability card to level 2 at the start of that scenario. A list of the ability cards and their respective upgrades are listed on the back of each character card. That should be everything you need to know. to get started with Gloomhaven buttons and bugs. If you ever need further clarification, Cephalofair has the full living rulebook on their website, which can be accessed through the QR code on the back of this Learn to Play guide. Now, enjoy your game.